I just gave you a framework for how wealth is created, right? So I thought, why do people buy mutual funds? To create wealth. That's the right reason why they buy mutual funds, right? So if people are buying mutual funds to create wealth, shouldn't the product itself have a strong resemblance to how wealth is created? Eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Let's test it. We can only test if you have principles. Number one, wealth is created by high quality businesses.
Oh, the high quality business, right.
Few.
So,
A mutual fund has many. That's the basis of a mutual fund, diversification.
Yeah.
So does your generic mutual fund anywhere in the world pass or fail the first test?
Fail.
or fail.
Generic mutual fund fails. Secondly, wealth is, what's the second one? Second principle?
Understanding.
Understand what you own.
Right.
If you, a typical mutual fund has 100 different stocks outside of Jamaica, in North America. Diversified. 100, right? If you own 100 different businesses, you own one business too. Is it possible to understand them all?
No.
So does your typical mutual fund pass or fail?
Fail again.
Remember, I'm 27, and I'm going through this. What wealth is created by? Third?
Use other people's money.
Well, that was the fourth.
Growth industry.
Strong long-term growth industry.
Right.
Right? If you own 100 different businesses, are you sure they're all in a strong long-term growth industry? Pass or fail? Fails on the third count. Fourth,
Get others' money.
use other people's money prudently. If you own 100 different businesses, are you sure you have 100 crackerjack CFOs? Are you sure? Huh? Are you sure?
No.
Does your typical generic mutual fund pass or fail?
Fail.
On the fourth count. And lastly, mutual funds that turn the portfolio over the trade. So the average trading rate would be 80% per year. The inverse of that is the average hold period is 14 months. I couldn't find one business person in the world who created any wealth by buying and selling his or her businesses every 14 months.
Exactly.
So does your average mutual fund pass or fail?
Fail.
So what do you think this 26-year-old Jamaican is thinking? I must be mad. How is it possible that we have an industry that is ubiquitous throughout the world, regulated by some smart, brilliant people, managed by some smart, brilliant people, and I'm saying I came to the conclusion that this industry, global industry, regulated, trillions and trillions of dollars in it, and it's dysfunctional relative to what clients want. Something must be wrong with me. But I couldn't have come to that conclusion if I didn't have a framework. Now you see the importance of, so the framework allowed me to think axiomatically and build it up from there, and came to the conclusion that the entire industry is dysfunctional. So if you came to that conclusion, what would you do? Change it. Right? Is that a great purpose? In other words, the whole world is filled with unwashed people, and you have soap. That's how I felt. So my purpose, doing well, is okay. I'm going to start a business, right? Will have three qualities. Number one, there's integrity, right? As a professional, any and every relationship, there must be intelligence in making decisions. And thirdly, there must be mutual passion. So if you don't have those three, and you have to have all three. If you don't have all three, the relationship is not going to work. It gives you a checklist. And if you have a checklist, it keeps you on the straight and narrow, right? So that's a framework. So that framework, the 5 laws, I now said, I'm going to start a business that has integrity. In other words, the integrity is customers want to create wealth. What is being sold to them is garbage. I'm going to start a business that stands for these 5 things. And that's what I did. But bought a small little business through my earnings. Before I did that, I didn't have any capital. And that's the problem most of us have. We don't have any capital. So the question is, how do I get capital? You can't create wealth unless you are conscious of this formula. Impossible. And you can't create any wealth unless you're conscious of that formula and you maximize each variable. This is the future value formula. Future value of money, money in the future, wealth, is equal to how much capital you have working for you today. PV times the return you make on that capital, on this PV, times time. Right? So therefore, as wealth creators, we have to maximize PV. We have to maximize R, the rate of return. And we have to maximize N. Simple. Simple, not easy. Right? So I'm going to start a business whereby, this was my thinking, whereby it will have integrity, so I can defend it. Because remember, I started off with, I'm challenging the industry. I'm being disruptional. I'm challenging an entire world industry, the asset management business, the mutual fund business. I have to come on strong and good because everybody's going to come after me, right? So number one, but if it has integrity, I don't care. I don't care if you have 50 PhDs from Harvard. I don't care because you're going to lose this debate, right? Secondly, it must have intelligence, right? So how am I going to defend it? I'm going to, when clients say to me, Mike, your mutual funds, those are not mutual funds. You only have 15 stocks in them, maximum. Your typical mutual fund has 100, 200. So I said, what do you want to do? Buy mutual funds or create wealth? Which? Which? Create wealth. So, okay, so how is wealth created? So I could go back to framework and then go through. So now what do you want to do? Forget those mutual funds, I want to buy yours. First is integrity. Second is intelligence. And third is passion. Because I know no one can tell me what I'm doing is wrong. Right? I know because I've been through the thought process, right? So now I needed PV. Getting back to your question, you need PV. And you need big globs of it, mountains of it to start. So you can get the compound process working. So in 1983, I was 32. I went out and borrowed because I said, how am I going to get PV? I could marry it, marry wealth, but that wasn't going to work. I was already married. I could steal it, forget that, right? I could inherit it. Sorry, you came from the wrong womb. Right? Or I could borrow it. So now I thought that's my only solution. So I went to the bank. And at the time, I had a portfolio of mutual funds, which they're used to giving collateral as against. So I said, I'm going to take a flyer. I'm going to go to the bank. This is 83. I was 32. I'm going to go to the bank and ask them to give me a loan for 500,000. Upsize the loan. And secondly, substitute the collateral, which was a portfolio of a few different mutual funds. So each one would have 150 businesses. If I had 5, that's 750 businesses, right? But 5 securities, but each representing 150 businesses. And I'm going to ask them to substitute the collateral with one stock. The stock of the management company of the mutual funds. Right? Because the management company is where the money is made. Right? Or for the people, the people who buy mutual funds. So I'm thinking, there's no way a prudent banker is going to lend me $500,000 then. It's like $5 million today. To a salesman, all I had was cash flow, which is what you have. So in my mind, the metaphor that came to mind is I have to somehow convert my cash flow into capital. That was the picture I saw. How do I convert my cash flow into capital? Well, I'm going to borrow. I'm going to borrow huge and take my cash flow to pay the interest on the loan. So that's how I'm going to get PV up front. Because I came to the conclusion, it is impossible to work, pay taxes, and become wealthy. Right? I came to that conclusion early. So my job, or the visual I had, was to convert my cash flow into PV. So that's how I got the PV. Then the rate of return, I made a good choice. And I was 32 years old. I had time. Okay, to be successful, you have to be purpose-driven, you have to be creative, you have to persevere. So now, I remember, this is 83, I just bought a big house in Canada. He was 2, right? In 81, he was born in 79. So I just bought a big house in Canada, moved into the big house. I bought the house for cash. I was selling lots. Then, so what I did, I remortgaged the house and then put for PV, put the money into working for me. Immediately thereafter, interest rates in Canada went from 8% to 23%. Immediately thereafter. So this friend came to see me in 83 and he said, Mike, about the house in 81, Mike, what a beautiful house, but it echoes. You know what that meant? It's empty. It had no furniture. He had to sleep on a mattress for the first 3 years of his life, right? But I said, it's okay. You know why? Because I have my PV working for me, right? I'm not going to sell my portfolio and buy furniture. And I need time, and is the most important variable here, because it's the only one that is an exponential. These are all linear, right? So therefore, I'm not selling my portfolio. I'm going to work and just keep my portfolio, because one day I will be able to buy furniture for this house every second of the day. One day. So let the house echo, right? So the moral is, you know what? You have cash flow from your practice. You want to transform that cash flow into capital, right? With your income from your practice, that is what you're going to use, right? And either pay down the mortgage on your house, your mortgage, no. Or you go to the bank and say, I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor. I'm an investor. That is my basis, right? I took the 500,000 and put it into one stock called Mackenzie Financial Corporation. That stock I bought at $1 per share. Because, right, this is before I started a business, right? Because I needed to get capital, right? So I got 500,000, put the 500,000 into a stock that it met all the 5 criteria. So, right? The one stock met all the 5 criteria. So back to framework. I understood because it's a regulated industry and I'm in the same regulatory industry. I'm in the same industry, right? The long-term growth industry, yes, it's a function of other people's money. It's a money management firm, and all I do have to do is simply hold it. So it met all the criteria. So I went out, took the 500,000, and the bank, by the way, the bank approved the loan, right? 500,000. Took the 500,000, bought Mackenzie, and gave them the security as collateral. The stock went from $1 to $7 from 83 to 87 in 4 years. Plus I bought Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, my role model. So the stock went from, Mackenzie went from 1 to 7, so 500,000 became 3.5 million. Then I was now able to buy an asset management business with just $800,000 in other people's money, which was your typical mutual fund with 100 securities. And I now transformed that, overlaid the principles, my principles on that company, and grew from 800,000 to 15 billion.